Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, SharePoint Premium, all you need to know about content AI, featuring my good friend and Microsoft MVP, Gokan Ozcifci. My name is Vlad Katrinescu, technical evangelist at Syskit, and a Microsoft MVP from Montreal, Canada, and I will be your host for this webinar. Most of you already know about Syskit, but for those of you that join us for a webinar for the first time, well, welcome. A little introduction about Syskit. We have been around for more than 14 years, creating products around SharePoint, and of course now the bigger Microsoft 365 family of products. We currently have more than 3,500 customers around the world, anywhere from small businesses to very large companies. And we have 4 different products, but our flagship is Syskit Point for Microsoft 365 governance. Now, let me do a tiny bit of housekeeping. I know it's never the fun part of the presentation, but it's still important to do. Everyone will receive a recording of the webinar within a few days. So don't worry if you need to step out or anything, you will get the recording. And towards the end of the presentation, the amazing Carlo from Syskit will take just a few minutes to show you what Syskit can do. Also, please do not hesitate to ask questions during this webinar. We want you to leave with all the answers that you need. And you have the Q&A widget on the right side of your screen. And feel free to ask questions. Whenever Gokan shows something awesome, you don't need to know. You don't need to wait until the end. Now, it's time to introduce our amazing presenter for today, Gokan Ozcifci. Gokan is an independent SharePoint and Office 365 consultant for Neoxy, where he assists customers with building innovative, intelligent, and responsive cloud-driven solutions. With the mobile-first, cloud-first ideology, his goal is to empower every person and organization to do more with the Microsoft Cloud. Now, not many people know, but Gokan is also a collector of Pokemon cards. And I like to joke around that he likes to collect Microsoft awards as well, because he's the person with the most Microsoft awards that I know. He's a Microsoft Regional Director, a Microsoft MVP, and a Microsoft MCT Regional Lead. Now, I would like to give a warm welcome and turn things over to Gokan. Gokan, are you ready?
I am ready. Good morning or good afternoon, Vlad. Well, that was a pretty amazing introduction about myself. I was proud of myself where you started talking about me. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Gokan.
I am going to share the screen. And Vlad, before I let you go, I just want to make sure that this screen is all good. Can you confirm me?
I do see your beautiful slides.
Wonderful. Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you, Vlad. That's all for the moment. Welcome, everyone. Bonjour, salam, shalom, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, guten tag, guten morgen, goedemorgen, in any language from anywhere you are. Welcome to this SharePoint Premium session about all what you need to know about Content AI. SharePoint Premium is a new baby of the SharePoint family, so I think it is a good moment to discuss about all what we can do, all what you should be aware of the SharePoint Premium family. And that's the reason why we joined our forces with Syskit to bring you all the awesomenesses about that tool. My name is Gokan Ozcifci, and I don't think I need more introduction, but there is one thing that Vlad is right. Yes, I do collect Pokemon cards, and I'm very bad in funny jokes. So if you guys heard some jokes around this session, well, just so you know, I'm very bad, and my apologies, therefore, if you don't laugh at one of those jokes. Now, that being said, what is SharePoint Premium? Let's go straight forward. I only have a couple of slides. Well, technically, I have 80 up to 90 slides, but I love showing this into a demo style. So we'll just go in a couple of slides about what SharePoint Premium is, and then I will go a deep dive into 45 to 50 minutes of demo into a test tenant. The slides will be also available, so I'm going to send this to Vlad or the Syskit team, and they will send it over to you. So why about such kind of session, because what I think personally is that SharePoint Premium is still complex for everyone. And we need to have a human-centric introduction to SharePoint Premium and all the artifacts around. And this session is meant for you to understand about the features, the fundamentals, the artifacts, as well as the use cases, outlining the potential workstream and dependencies for a future-proof roadmap. All of that is going to be shown today. SharePoint Premium. Well, when you think about SharePoint Premium, it's, as I said, the newest baby of the SharePoint umbrella, which is the content understanding, processing, and compliance services that's being used for document processing, for governance, for AI, and way more and beyond within your SharePoint. 4 major artifacts, which I think is very important to understand. Why do we need SharePoint Premium today? SharePoint Premium gives you security, compliance, AI that could potentially replace legacy systems. If you have like an old machine for compliance, if you have like an old service for AI capabilities, well, SharePoint Premium offers that to you. And by extracting data from invoices, from documents, by automating business processes, well, you will discover valuable knowledge to amplify human expertise. And you can build new business processes, discover new artifacts in your documents, and bring your organization to the next level. The third option is, as the backend is SharePoint, every stuff that we have been knowing for the last 20 years applies on that data. A SharePoint document library is still a SharePoint document library. A list is still a list. A content type is still a content type. With SharePoint Premium, we just add some intelligence on top of those artifacts. Microsoft divides this in 3 major categories. So do you have the experiences, the processing, and the governance? And all what you see below are what you can do with SharePoint Premium. On experiences, you have the annotations, the brand new business documents app that they will bring out soon, hopefully in Orlando in a couple of weeks. That's going to be part of the keynote, which I don't know. We haven't seen any info about this yet, but I'm really hoping to see the new business documents app within SharePoint Premium in Teams. You have the e-signatures and as well as the document hub in the experiences, all for your experiences and usage into SharePoint Premium. The most interesting for me is the AI side, which is the processing side, where you can see the document processing, the document assembly, the OCR, image processing, taxonomy tagging, all of that within the processing segment. And finally, the governance, which we will have actually the brand new and so long-awaited M365 backup archive, which is today in preview, as well as Copilot into SharePoint Admin, hopefully to be announced very soon, AI-driven policies, SharePoint Advanced Management, and so on and so on. Don't get upset, don't be worried. All those terms could be new for you. Well, that's good, because we will deep dive into all of those artifacts with this session. I cannot show everything because, you know, it's like a huge deal. I think Vlad and myself, we could talk 8 hours about all those features in SharePoint Premium, but I will try to show you all the major stuff within SharePoint Premium. Last slide before we get, or the last slides before we get to the demo environment, you have to know that SharePoint Premium is not new. It was called Microsoft Syntax before. Even before that, it was called SharePoint Syntax, and the first release was Project Cortex. So this is the fourth time that the tool is being rebranded, added new features to try to get that product alive, and hopefully this time with SharePoint Premium, we will get the most of benefits from it. One thing you need to know that Microsoft Viva Topics was also part of that family, or at least was a tool being made of Project Cortex. Unfortunately, Microsoft decided to discontinue the tool. So from April next year, if I'm not wrong, if my memory doesn't play me a game, April next year, well, Viva Topics is not gonna be available anymore, as well as the SharePoint Advanced Management, which is like reports that you can get from the admin center, is now somehow part of the SharePoint Premium and not being considered as a separate tool. So today, when we talk about SharePoint Premium, it's one big umbrella that hosts all those new features in your environment. And why is that important? Why is SharePoint Premium today important? And therefore, I'm going to explain you that slide deck that I've built to let you understand that any data that you will extract, let's sign with e-signatures, get data from metadata, from your documents, invoices, and so on, all that data will be stored into a SharePoint document library. From that SharePoint document library, well, you can go to the left side, to the Power Platform, and you can build amazing solutions with Power Apps. If you use SharePoint as your data source, you can use connectors in Power Platform to use that data into other apps. You can use Power Virtual Tables within Power Apps to bring that SharePoint data into Dataverse, ingest into Dataverse, and use it somewhere else. If you go on the right side, well, as data is in SharePoint, well, you can build amazing SPFX solutions, apps. You can go and use the Graph API calls to get that data, and so on and so on. If you go on the upper side of that image, well, you can use the search, the SharePoint Premium search, to get and refine that data, or apply just DLP labeling and so on from the Compliance Center. So the data is in SharePoint. It is basically SharePoint, and all the ways are good to go when the data is in the heart of SharePoint. And that's why SharePoint Premium is important, because it gives you unlimited choices on what you can do. Now, that's a lot of slides. And I told you I have like 104 slides, which I'm not going to show today because it's going to be only slides. I love to go with demo, so I'm going to show you all from the demo site. First things first, what you need to do is ask your admin to enable Syntax. It's still called Syntax, unfortunately, but SharePoint Premium from the admin center, right? It has to come under the setup. Go to use Content AI with Microsoft Syntax and set up the billing as well as configure the resource group. If you click on it, well, on my tenant, it's all being configured, but as you can see, there is a pay-as-you-go subscription, a resource group, and then a region. Basically, we will rely on the pay-as-you-go subscription from Azure to make sure that we can use SharePoint Premium in our environment. I'm going to just scroll this down. There we go, and close this. And then when everything is okay, then the second box will be grayed out. Well, not be grayed out, but it's going to be visible for you. And you can see all the options, all the features that you can use with SharePoint Premium. Those where you see in preview, well, you can use them, but it might change in the future. The one that I really want to show is the e-signature, but that's US only. So if you want to use that feature, it's still in preview, so you have to wait, or either have a tenant which is US-based in order to test e-signatures. But all the rest, if you want to use, let's say the image tagging option, well, basically you can just edit that policy and say, okay, it's available into all SharePoint sites and libraries, or no. Or if I go to the other one, which is taxonomy tagging, I can also edit this, and I can here go for all sites, no sites, or select up to 100 sites by uploading a CSV or selecting one by one. So as an admin, it's up to you to decide which feature you want to use in SharePoint Premium within this admin center in SharePoint in Office 365. Then the second step would be creating a Content Center. Within the SharePoint Admin Center, when you click on Create a Site, well, you will see that there is something called the Syntax Content Center. When you click on it, well, you will see it's basically a template, and you just give a name, and that would provision for you a SharePoint site with a Content Center template. Why is this important? Well, it's about centralization. Today, when you build models, when you want to extract data from documents, from PDFs, from invoices, well, we have to make sure that those data remain controlled by the site owner within one site. Well, that's the reason why then we have content centers, and I'm going to show in a couple of seconds, where we can upload some training files, we can upload some models, we can do a bunch of stuff into the content center. Does that mean that we have to use a content center? No. If you only want to use SharePoint Premium into one specific site, well, you can definitely go and use SharePoint Premium on that specific site, and all the models, training files, and so on will be available only into that site. The Content Center is only for centralizing all the models, files, and so on you would have for SharePoint Premium. So basically, you just give a name, and that's what's happening. You will get a site like this, and you will see two very important document libraries. First one is the training files. And now I'm going to explain you the following. Now we are actually going to the models. You know, with SharePoint Premium, we have multiple ways on extracting data from invoices, from documents, from X, Y, Z. And Microsoft gives you 3 ways. The unstructured, which is like the most complex one, but it's the most robust one. This is like the SharePoint way of extracting data, and you have to define some practices and patterns in order to extract data. Then you have the semi-structured as well as the structured, which is extremely easy to use as it's using AI capabilities from Power Platform. And let's build those 2 models to understand what's the difference between the unstructured as well as the structured. Here, the first thing you need to do is go under the training files and upload a bunch of files that you would actually use to train your model. I have here some Uber invoices. As you can see, they're just uploaded here, as well as other invoices, random invoices that I just took for testing. Those are files that you are going to use to train your model. The more you have, the better it is for your models. Just be clear like that. If you now go to models, well, you will see a list of all models centralized for you. So if Vlad, for a reason, decide to create a model for me, well, I could easily come to that model segment and choose for that model and apply this to a document library and start using it. And that's the whole purpose of the Content Center. Any one part of that Content Center can use those models to apply to those libraries. If I now click on create a model, well, you will see I get the same screen as on my PowerPoint slides. And I'll choose the most complex, the teaching one. It gives you a few explanation. I click on next and then asks you for a name. Let's go for Syskit Uber invoices, right? You can give a description. I'm just going to leave it blank. And then what is really nice is that you can also add some advanced settings. The data that we're going to extract from those invoices, well, we can either bring them into a brand new content type, or we can use an existing content type if we already have one in our site. Many of times, well, you can go and you will go for the brand new content type. So I'm just choosing the brand new, and you can define the sensitivity label and policies for the extracted data. So that's all possible. Just for the demo purpose, I'm just leave it by none, just so you know that's also an option. So I'm clicking on create, and now a brand new model is being built for me, and now I have to tell them how they can extract data from those invoices. Well, remember I told you we need some files to train the model, so I'm going to click on add, and what you will see is he will automatically go to the training files. So if you add more files into that document library, they will be all visible here. I'm clicking on Uber, and normally you should add up to 5 correct invoices. That's how the unstructured is working. You have to add 4 works to 2, but let's say 5, and then you have to add 1 bad invoice, one that is not correct, one that is not looking as the invoice that you should use in your organization. So I have 5 correct invoices and 1 bad, right? Now I have my invoices, and then I have to train the classifier. I have to tell him how that model should understand that this is a Syskit Uber invoice. Well, the Neoxy 05, is this a Uber invoice? No, it's not. So I'm just clicking on no. Is this an Uber invoice? Well, yes, it looks like, so I'm clicking on yes. Very simple. And I have to do this multiple times for all the invoices I have. And now you will see that I have 1 negative, that's correct, and then I have like all the rest positive. Fantastic. Now I click here above on train. Now I tell him, hey, those are the correct invoices, this is the bad invoice. Now I have to tell him how he should understand that this is Uber invoice. And therefore I have to explain it. I click on new. Well, I can either go for blank or for a template. If I go for blank, well, I can choose and give a name, let's say name. And then here I can go for an explanation. I can go for a phrase list, which is a word, phrase, pattern, a regular expression, or a proximity. I can even choose, oh, you have to look for that specific word here. I'm going to go for a phrase list, and look what's going to happen. If I just click on U, it will already propose me Uber because he knows that he's seen that word already multiple times into my documents. So he proposes that to me. So I'm going to click on tab to accept that suggestion and then say save and train. Now he is going to check all those documents and try to find the word Uber. If the word Uber is into that, it's a match. If it's not into that, it's a match too. And you can see here, I got an accuracy of 100%. So the fact that I've been adding the word Uber is okay. So he can make the difference between what's an Uber invoice and what's not. Well, you will not always get 100%. If that's the case, well, everything below 90 demands more explanations. If you are above 90, 95, I would say it's okay. But everything below 90% demands more explanations, more intelligence to build your model. Oh, I shouldn't do train model. I just want to do test and then just exit the training. Well, you will now see that this got 100%. That's okay. Now I'm going to create an extractor. The extractor is, okay, we know that this is an Uber invoice. Now we have to extract the data. So what makes sense for an Uber invoice? We could say the price is something that we want to extract because Syskit wants to pay this back. So we need to know what the price is. Again, you have the advanced settings. You can choose a brand new column or update an existing column into your content type. I'm going for a brand new column and click on create. Again, here I have to say which one is the correct invoice, which one is not. So this one has no label because it's the bad one. I'm clicking on next. Here I have to select my price. This is the price that I want him to extract and put into my create column into my content type. So I'm going to click on save, and what you will now see that I have 43.12 extracted by my PDF. I'm clicking on next. I'm doing this for all files. Save and next. Here, let me find the total. It's this. Save and next. Here, save and next. And finally, here, save and next. Oh, there is no next. Okay, cool. So we all selected the file. He knows that this is the file, and the first one has no label. Then we have, again, to explain him how he should find those files, because yes, we selected it, but as you have seen, not every invoice has the same length. One is longer, one is shorter. We have to explain him. So we could, again, here, choose for blank, but you can also go for templates. Microsoft proposed you a bunch of templates, such as digit numbers, such as a checkbox, if there is a credit card information, a date, an email, CC, and so on and so on. What I really like is building my own patterns. Look, here, I know from my invoices, there is a pattern, and that pattern is there is always a $ before my text. So what I could do is I could say, okay, I'm going for a template, and I'll go for before, and look, he already knows and seeing that there is an existing pattern, that there is the $ as well as the AM in front of what I've been selecting. So I'm going to click on add, and here you can accept what he's proposing to you, or you can definitely add more. So I'm definitely okay with that, and I'm going to click on save. You can always come here, go for template, and also choose for after the label. And again, it proposes you a bunch of stuff. And I know from experience, and you can see it from here too, the pattern is I have a $, and then it always starts with my name. So Gokan, this is the value you have to pay, and this is the values I can extract from here. So I'm gonna come here and then go for a template, and then choose after the label, click on add, and remove this one, or just leave it as it is, right? And then click on save. Now I have like two explanations, and let's now train the model and say like, hey, I have selected, highlighted the fields I want to extract. There is a value before the label and there is a value after the label. So try to make the match and give me an accuracy rate, hopefully 100%. He is now checking the values, all matches, and yabba dabba doo, I get 100% on my accuracy. Phenomenal. Now I exit the training. And the last part is apply this to a model. So I can easily come here and select one of those sites. Could be a site into the content center, could be a site somewhere else. I could go anywhere and then just apply this to any document library herein, right? So let's apply this to, I probably should create a new document library just here, just to make sure that we are not interfering with the others. Here, document library, and I'm going to say syskit tests unstructured, and then click on create. I have my document library here. Okay, I'm coming to my content center. I'm just gonna cancel this and apply again, and then go to the content center, and then I have that document library just here, syskit test unstructured, and I'll just click on add. Now that model is going to be applied to that document library, a brand new one. And look what's going to happen now is I have a brand new column which is called price. Remember, that's the one that we created for extracting the file. Now if I just say upload within my document library, a file, and let's go for this. This is also an Uber invoice. And what you will here see is we're analyzing your files. You'll see the extracted info in the columns of the document library. So this can take time. It can go from a few seconds to a few minutes, and this will now be processed, and the price should actually come here within a couple of minutes. So I'm going to just do a refresh. If not, we'll just move to the other demo, and then at the end, we'll just come here and see if that's finished, yes or no. Now, if I go to my content center again, here within the models, well, what's going to happen here when you build a new model, well, even before building the new model, you can see that this model exists here, the syskit Uber. I can easily click on it and apply this to multiple other document libraries. You can see it from here. I can see on which document library this has been added. I can easily click here on add and apply the same model on different document libraries. One thing which is phenomenal as well is that we have rulers into models in SharePoint Premium. Remember the price that we had added with two explanations, the before and the after label? Well, when you click on it or in any other column, well, you can refine the extracted data. If I click on it, well, Microsoft SharePoint Premium proposes you a few rulers, like if you find some duplicate values, erase them, or set a default value if you extract the data, keep one or more of the last lines, and so on and so on. And if you click on that, well, you can just, apply this and refine this. And if you have some duplicate values, well, from price, well, those will then be erased by the ruler. So that's also an option within the modeling in SharePoint Premium. I'm returning to my models, and I will create a new one. And those two, the freeform and the layout, they have some minor differences, but both of them use the Power Platform AI capabilities to extract data. Let's go for the freeform and then click on next. And I'm going to say syskit freeform, right? And again, a description, and again, the same. You can add a new content type. You can add sensitivity labels, retention labels. I'm not going to lose a lot of time because I already explained this. But now what you're going to see is that the experience is quite different, because now we are not using the SharePoint capability with the extractors, with refiners, and so on. But basically, we are using AI in Power Platform. Moreover, into Power Apps. And I'm going to show that in a couple of seconds. The model is now being loaded. Hopefully the demo gods are with me and this is going to crash. Come on.
Did you sacrifice a site collection or a virtual machine for the demagogues, Gokan?
Oh my goodness, I knew I did forget something, but this was not the case. So I'm
You
gonna
always
just
have to do a sacrifice for the demagogues. This way it's faster. It's the
uh,
rule.
so let me create a new one. Just randomly test Siskit over layout. Just create. I don't know why it's taking that much time. So hopefully. Oh, it loaded. Okay, cool. It loaded. It took some time, but it loaded. But now the experience is quite different. It's asking me, firstly, to create the values I want to extract. So I could go for a text field, a number field, date field, checkbox, or table. From an Uber invoice, again, I can go for a text field and say, I like to extract the price. If I click on done, well, you will see that I have a new field or a new column where I can add the data from that PDF into my SharePoint. If I click on next, you can add way more, but as we have like a 30-minute left for 16 other demos, I'm going to just show one, and then you can just add a new collection. And then within that collection, you can go up to 50,000 pages or up to 1 gigabyte of JPEGs, PNGs, and PDFs where you want to extract your data. I'm going to add those documents, and you can either go to SharePoint or to your device. Let me try SharePoint and then go to the Content Center. And within the Content Center, I have my training files. And then within the training files, I have the Uber ones. And I'm going to just select all of that and add them here. Now, it will upload all those files just for you. And here, we don't have that, I'm not going to call it limitation, but the prerequisite to have like 5 goods and 1 bad invoices. You just add the correct invoices you had. And if you want to add more collections, that's also possible. So you can have a combination of invoices into your model. I'm going to just delete that. So I have my collection. I can rename it and bring this to Uber invoices. I click next. Here is like the AI part of the story. Now, I don't have to explain him how he should find the files. I just have to select the value and tell him that this is my price. I only have one field. If I had multiple fields, I had to do this multiple times. I'm now selecting the second file, coming here, again, price. I'll select this here, again, come here, and then say price. I'll select this one, and then say price, boom. And finally, the fifth one, I'll come here and say price. It's a bit monkey work, but it's easy, just drawing and selecting stuff. And then once you're done, that's it. Have you seen how easy that building models is with SharePoint Premium? You don't have to be an expert. You just upload some files, create some columns, and then tell SharePoint Premium what kind of value matches with the columns you have created. And now it tells me, Gokan, thank you. It can take up to 20 minutes to a few hours. It all depends on how complex your model is. But basically, if you want to see how it did, well, you can either come here to make.powerapps.com, and on the left side within Power Apps, it's loading. Well, we can actually go and see how the model is doing. Under the AI Hub, well, you will see that SharePoint Premium did create an AI model just for me, and you will see the status of it, that it is training. Look here. The Siskit freeform done by Gokan is now being training. So if you have other things, no worries, just the status is being changed to start testing your tool. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to check if the extracted data refresh. No, and I think I know, because this is not the Uber invoice. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come to the training files and download one file, and hopefully then it would be able to extract that value from that invoice. So I'm going to Uber again here, and I'm going to download this number one, and then come back to my document library, click on upload, and then upload that specific Uber invoice. Again, we will see that the file is going to be extracted. I'm just going to do a quick refresh. And you can see that the progress status has been finished. So hopefully this time it will not take that much time. Yet another refresh. Oh, come on. Otherwise, I'll just continue with the other demos and then we'll come back here. So I can just close this. We don't need it anymore. I think I can close this too, and this too, and this too, and this too, this definitely, and then this definitely are two. Okay, so I'm gonna close this and then come to my models again, just here. Okay, fantastic. Now, we've seen about models, phenomenal, but that's not the only AI part of SharePoint Premium. You also have the taxonomy tagger within SharePoint Premium. What is taxonomy tagger? Well, basically, if you add a new column with SharePoint Premium and choose for the following managed metadata and click on next, well, you can tell him to automatically tag documents with terms. And that's the AI part of the story. You just basically go to your term set and say, hey, buddy, I have a SharePoint Premium term set, and I like to use that one actually and go for the invoices. And I have like 3 kinds of invoices. If you select invoices and say yes, well, you can actually here give a name, invoice partners, and then just click on save just here. Well, that will create a new column. And every time when you add a new file, well, that data will be extracted. And you can see I have like 5 Uber invoices. Well, it could extract all the values from that invoice and bring it here. So that's also a possibility. The only drawback is that it can take a lot of time. The taxonomy tagger is extremely slow. I think the documentation says it can go from 20 minutes to 24 hours. It's just slow, but just so you know, if you have SharePoint Premium, you can have automatically tagged document data within SharePoint Premium. The image tagger as well is yet another AI capability within SharePoint. So I made a few tests. It's not optimal, but look, I uploaded a picture, and Vlad is going to be very happy because it's a Pokemon card, which costs $400,000 USD. I uploaded that one, I made a test, and he could not really understand, and he just said, oh, it looks like text. However, I uploaded my dream car, which is like a Porsche, a German car, and then the image tagging works somehow. Is it optimal? No, but you can see that he could understand that it was a car, it's a luxury vehicle, it's a Porsche, transport vehicle wheel, and so on and so on. So the image tagger is yet another AI capability within SharePoint Premium. Just by uploading a file, well, you can have that into use. So let's make a quick test. And again, I'm scared it's going to take a few minutes. So I'm going to look for Vlad Catrinescu and see what kind of data we can get from the images. So I'm going here and I'll choose this one, the most generic one. I'm going to just save this, save image as, and then choose my downloads here. I'm coming here, I'm going to upload this. No, this was not it. Okay. Oh, by the way, look, I uploaded the Uber one and it could perfectly extract the value in the price. So this invoice was not the correct one, I guess. He could not extract the value, but the Uber one here, well, you know what? He could do it. So we could extract data with our model into a column, and this is the price 43.12. If I click on Uber one, just here, this is 43.12 here as well. So it's working, and I'm pretty proud of it. Image tagger, so just come back to the image tagger. I'm going to upload the picture of Vlad, and hopefully within a couple of seconds, we should be able to see what the image tagger tells us.
I am afraid if that's a picture of me, I'm afraid of what it will say. It'll start by saying old.
We'll see. But the question is, how do you enable that? Well, if you have SharePoint Premium enabled and the image tagger enabled from the syntax services, basically you just go under automate and then you would see the configure image tagger just here. If I now click on it, it will say, Gokan, do you want to disable it? No. if you didn't do it, well, basically it will just enable for you, and in a couple of seconds, the image tagger will be enabled for you. Not much thing to do. Now, let's have a look for Vlad. Cake, clothing, color, eyebrow, fabric, forehead, formal wear, headshots, portrait, skin, smile. So everything is there except the name Vlad Katrnescu. So I am a bit disappointed, but it's real, it's live, it's working just as you have seen. The tags are being generated for you. All possible. Now, another phenomenal functionality with SharePoint Premium is the modern template capability. So remember, with SharePoint, well, you can create new folder, words, and so on. But with SharePoint Premium, you get the option to create a modern template. So you can use a file as a template and then bring that capability to use that template for future documents. If you click on it, well, within SharePoint Premium, a new designer will open, and then you have to choose the file that you're going to use as a template. So I'm going again to the training files because that's my central location for all the files. And you can only use Word documents, so no PDFs. I'm going to choose like number 4 randomly. And then it will come to the diner where I can then tell him, hey, those fields should be updated and bring to life when someone creates a document based on that template. So basically, this finished loading. There we go. I'll just create add a field, and then I'm going to tell what data I want to change. So let's say the invoice number is something that we always want to change. So I'm going to highlight this. You'll see that the value appears here, and I'm going to say invoice number, and then click on confirm. Click on next. Then you have 3 choices. You can either modify it manually, so I can just select single line of text, and every time I use that template, I can manually type the value. I can either go to a SharePoint list and then go for list items, right? Or I can even go to manage metadata and then use the value from metadata. Remember, the one that I had a couple of seconds ago is just here. So let's do 2 examples. I'll go for the free form. So I'll go single line of text, and I'm going to add a new one, and I'm going to change, let's say, the company name. Okay, company name. I again click on confirm, click on next, and then here I'm going to choose for manage metadata, select my term here, and then say, okay, this is from invoices, and click on save. Now, this has been saved. I'm going to publish this. Just give it a name. Let's say invoices from 2024, and then publish this. You will see that this is now being published into my SharePoint, into my document library in SharePoint. And now every time when I click on create invoice from 24/24, it will use that document as foundation to create new ones. And then I have to fill in 2 information. The first one is the invoice number, and the second one is the company name. Remember, the invoice number was free form, so I can choose and write anything I want. And the second one is PDF. So you can see the first one is free text. And this one, the second one, is manage metadata. Now, again, remember Airbus, Neoxy, and Uber. I can easily click on Uber and say apply. And then you will see that this is free text and this is Uber. And when I click on create documents, I can say this is my Syskit invoice 001. And click on create. Now that document will be created into my document library, and you will see that coming just here. Is that all? No, within your document library, well, Microsoft is also working to enhance the experience of making that document intelligent. Well, you can create annotations. If you click on annotation, well, Vlad can say, okay, this file or this Uber the invoice has been paid, or he can just say not paid, and then say, okay, we refuse that invoice. It's all possible. You can use annotations. And you know what the fancy part is? That if you use the models based on the Power Platform AI capabilities, well, you can even select those annotations and extract the value of the handwritten annotation. And that's where everything becomes possible, because if your manager signs, you can even extract his signatures, his name, everything that he handwritten, which is readable. It should not be a logo or an emoji. Anything that is written, well, you can extract this with the model, right? And then you can definitely also come here and then say, oh, I'd like to extract pages. So if you have multiple pages into a PDF, well, you can extract that with SharePoint Premium. You can even go for merge PDFs, as well as if you have a document that you don't know about the language, well, you have the translate capability. I can translate that document into Japanese and click on translate. And that file is going to be translated for you with the SharePoint Premium experience. Now, is that all? No, it's not. Way more functionalities, extremely powerful capabilities into the SharePoint Advanced Management. SharePoint Advanced Management, or the content governance, is an add-on on SharePoint that you can use for getting a bunch of reports, advanced features for the admin side of the story. It is a $3 per seat per month licensing, so it's not part of the pay-as-you-go, and everyone should have that license if you decide to use the SharePoint Premium, the SharePoint Advanced Management capability. So if you go for an example, conditional access policies for SharePoint and OneDrive, like control whatever user can access sensitive sites based on conditions, well, the people that you add into that specific policy need to have the so the SharePoint Advanced Management license in order to use that. So it is an extra cost added on top of it, but just so you know, within the SharePoint Admin Center into SAM, you can enable that and use all the features, reports you get into it. This part only, like showing every feature, showing all the capabilities, would take Vlad and myself more than 2 hours. So I'm going to just show you that you can do it. And this just here, so it's called Advanced Management Pro, and you just need to have the license. Now, Microsoft has also some big plans within the SharePoint Premium family with the backup and archive, right? Those are new preview functionalities that everyone is waiting for. It's part of the pay-as-you-go licensing model, and you actually pay only for what you consume. Archive is very easy. When you come to your active sites, well, you can see I have a bunch of sites just here within my SharePoint tenant. You can easily click on Syskit and then just say, okay, you know, I'm done with that project, it's finished. But for some reason, could be regulation, could be legal, could be X, Y, Z, I need to keep that data and offload this from my hot storage to the cold storage, right? Because hot storage always costs more than the cold one. Well, what you can do is select from the admin center the site and click on archive. And then it will say, do you want to archive this? Yes, I'd like to archive this, and confirm. And what you will now see that within a few seconds, actually, the Syskit site is gone. If I close this, well, if I just look here, Syskit, well, you will see that the site is not there anymore. It's gone, right? Well, basically, it just went here to the archived sites. And you can see that your site is here. And if for some reason your manager tells you, hey, Gokan, we still need that site, we still need to work on that project, well, you just click on reactivate and then click on reactivate on the blue button here, and your site will again come under the active site. And now if I search for Syskit, well, you will see that I have my site just into my SharePoint Admin Center. Well, is backup, is archive the only thing that you get with SharePoint Premium? No, you also have the option to use the backup. If I click now here on backup, well, the thing is, M365 backup is not part of the SharePoint Admin Center. Although it is part of the SharePoint family, the SharePoint Premium family, it is under the M365 Admin Center. And it's just under the settings called the M365 Backup. By default, you have like SharePoint, Exchange, OneDrive. Teams is missing, so hopefully we will get Teams here as well. But you have to create one policy and one policy only. So you can't have multiple policies into your backup. So you have your policy and then you just create your policy or edit your policy. For Exchange, I did not set up any policy, as you can see, not set up. But for SharePoint, I do have, but it looks like it has 0 sites included. So I can just click on the policy and say, okay, I'd like to add some sites. And you have 3 ways on choosing the site. You can either go and say, okay, one by one, I'd like to back those and those sites, right? Easy. Or you can make it more intelligent and say, okay, go and back up every site that contains the site name or the URL. Backup HR sites, well, you just write here, and if the name contains HR or the URL contains HR, well, you will be able to back up that. Or you can easily say, okay, back up every site that has been modified the last 6 months, and anything else, I don't want to back up anymore, something like that. Or you can easily upload through CSV all the sites you want to back up. That's all possible with the brand new experience. Now, archive and backup has a lot of advantages as well as a lot of disadvantages, such as the restore from the backup is not on file level is one of those drawbacks with M365. I don't know if we can already say it, but with Syskit, we will soon have a gift for you all. And within that gift, all drawbacks and advantages of M365 backup and archive will be listed up. So no worries. I know it's a bit quick because it's only 1 hour to show that, but soon you will get a response for every single question you would have for backup and archive. And finally, before closing this, I like to show you because I think it's very important, but as my tenant is not into the US zone, the e-signatures. This is something that I think is going to change the world because everyone in the world, from small businesses to very high-tech organizations, we all need e-signatures for files, right? And this is coming to SharePoint Premium. Basically, when you would have your PDF file above in the ribbon, you would see send for signatures. And then you just click on request signature. You can choose between the Adobe and DocuSign if you have the license. If not, you just go for the Syntax e-signature. You add the people you want, they sign for it. You can add your message. And then you select the people. As you can see, I have Brian on the left and Nestor on the right. I select Brian and say signature, and that signature should be here. For Nestor, that signature should be here. So I've seen a few friends in the US having that one, and today only signature, initial, and date signed are part of SharePoint Premium e-signature. So name, email, company title, text, and checkbox are not part yet. That will come, but it's not part today. Then this will be created. That will be sent to those people. They will receive an email. They open the file. They click on the blue button. Hey, click to add signature. They just write their name, or they can just write the name and select the font. And then that document is signed. And when you send it, people will receive that document being saved. It's a shame I can't show that to you. I would really love to be able to show that, but that's gonna come very soon. Final words before we end with the SharePoint Premium. To be honest, half of things I've shown you could be done in multiple days, like building your models, building your modern templating engine, the translation, the annotations, archiving. And Microsoft promised us a bunch of stuff, such as summarization, the 2 apps that we should get, and so on, still not being released. And I think Microsoft is investing a lot of time and energy into SharePoint Premium. You're not too late. It's time to learn about SharePoint Premium because all the AI capabilities, all the intelligence, all the fancy part is going to be part of SharePoint Premium. And SharePoint Premium is not only syntax, it's not only AI. You just need to know how to license it, because you have the $3 per user per month for SharePoint Advanced Management. You get the pay-as-you-go. If you go for the free form and layout document processing model, well, you have to have AI builder credits, and so on and so on. It's a bit complex, but once you're into it, it gets very, very nice and fancy to use. Here I have the roadmap for you. Backup, archive, summarization, and the two apps are still planned for Q1. And Microsoft has a phenomenal website that helps you understanding all the brand new stuff they have. Hopefully, e-signatures will come to our tenants very soon. But that's basically the roadmap for this one. And pricing. I know Vlad always says you need to have a PhD for licensing at Microsoft, but I think for SharePoint Premium, they made a great job. And although I can argue that some of them are quite expensive, but this is like the pricing for SharePoint Premium. E-signatures is like the most expensive one, $2 per transaction. When you see like the unstructured document processing or the pre-built ones, it's only like 1 cent per page. It looks like peanuts, or even OCR is like 0.001 per page. Image tagging, it's peanuts. So what I know is that Vlad, for his picture, owes me 1 penny for that extract of data. Vlad, I think I've been talking too much, too fast, with way too much information. Did you enjoy my session, my friends?
It was amazing, and I'll make sure to give you a check for the penny, because I know how much you love checks, Gokan. I'll write you a check for the 1 penny for my for using my picture. Well, Gokan, we will let you take a break, but we have a ton of questions coming up. I'll already give you an idea, so you have a bit of time to prepare. We're going to talk about autofill columns. We're going to talk about your favorite topic, licensing, and even connecting with some scanners. But for now, I will let you drink a quick glass of water, take a break a bit, because you talked a bit. And we're going to get Carlo here from Syskit, who will do a quick demo on how Syskit Point can help you with data governance, preventing oversharing, and lifecycle management. Carlo, are you ready?
I'm completely ready, and thank you, gents. The only hard part is going to be to follow up what Gokan has already told us. Let me just quickly share my screen. Hopefully you can see my screen. Okay, so as they said, my name is Carlo, and I'm one of the customer success managers here at Syskit. And essentially, as we've seen with all the wonderful things Gokan showed us that are part of SharePoint Premium, it's evident that it's becoming more and more important by the day to have thorough insight into your tenant and to have a one-stop shop for data governance and control. So especially as Microsoft is putting more emphasis on collaboration in the age of AI, the importance of acting on oversharing and access management has become more important than ever. So Syskit Point can help you with exactly that. So just as a reminder for all of you, Syskit Point is our integrated and scalable platform that makes M365 end-to-end management and governance easy, not just for you today here, but also for your business users. So in today's scenario, Syskit Point can help us on 2 fronts. The first front is the reporting and cleanup capabilities, right? Allowing you to get insight into your tenant and to generate actionable reports, allowing you to do a quick cleanup of anything that might present a hurdle for appropriate collaboration, right? And then the second part is the automation side of Syskit Point, which allows you to establish rules and practices which will govern and prevent future misuse of data, right? So the first thing I want to focus on is that cleanup that I mentioned. For that, we will go directly to our Syskit Point platform and to the report center that we see right here. So here in my report center, I have around 30 different reports, but I'm going to go here to the drop-down menu and just focus on the permissions reports, right? Let's say that the first thing I want to focus on to see if I'm oversharing any of my content unwillingly, I'm going to generate this sharing links report, right? So the first step is going to be to essentially select a subset of data, and I'm going to focus on my Microsoft Teams today, right? And I'm going to bulk select and create this report, essentially exposing not only anonymous links, not only links shared with specific people, but also I want to get insight into how internally I'm sharing or oversharing this content. So through a couple of clicks, I get a very comprehensive report that essentially has very little to none limitations, where it tells me what those sharing links are, where it tells me what the link types are, and potentially when they were created and when they're expiring, right? So as you can see here, we have some of them dating to 2020, 2021, right? So no limitations there. Through one simple bulk action, right, I can remove all of these sharing links and start setting up that new baseline, right? Okay, let's go back to those permissions reports. And for the second part, I want to know, how am I oversharing or sharing externally, right, outside of my organization? So I'm going to select this externally shared content report. Again, I'm going to focus, for example, on the teams, and I can select a couple of them where I'm going to say, okay, show me the content down to the lowest level, to the file level, and show the items with unique permissions. So once again, as soon as I run this, right, I can see these three teams, and it's only exposing the things that are externally shared, right? So for example, this document here, I can see that I have an anonymous link, which can potentially be misused. And also I have Maya as my external user present here. Another interesting thing that SysGetPoint is exposing through this report are SharePoint groups and security groups that potentially contain external users, right? So this is prompting me to go to the last report today, which is essentially exactly that, the group access report, where I want to find out where different types of groups, whether they are team groups, security groups, right? I want to find out where they're present across my tenant. So I'm going to focus on just security groups, and especially on those extra tricky ones, which are the default security groups, right? Such as everyone and everyone except external users. Since earlier I cleaned up some of the external presence, I'm going to generate this one, right? And as soon as I click this, I can see where this security group is present, and not only that, but in what capacity and how that access was given to that particular group. Very powerful stuff and very quick stuff, right? And finally, very actionable stuff, right? We can immediately remove access from this report. So now that we've, done that manual cleanup, that we have insight into how the tenant is behaving, I can, for example, as the final part, I want to expose, for example, the inactive sites, right? And I can see here all of the stale content that I don't want to be considered by any of the wonderful things that Gokan was showing, right? Well, this is where we come to the last part of my presentation, where we're talking about automation. Here in SysGetPoint, we can actually delegate, essentially. So as soon as SysGetPoint recognizes that some content, that a workspace in your tenant is inactive, right, it can immediately notify the owner and ask them, hey, do we need to keep this? Do we archive it, or do we delete it, right? That way, you're kind of shortening that period where that stale content is potentially being overexposed in your tenant, and just staying unnecessarily in your tenant. The last part that I'm going to show you today is focusing on automating and delegating, essentially recertification of different workspaces. So there I'm talking about our access review feature, which is a policy, a recurring policy that you set up to your own liking, which sends a recertification simple 4-step wizard to all of your workspace owners, or some of them, right? Again, you can choose a subset of the more critical ones. And then they can start a review, and in a very simple couple of steps, they can exclude certain members, and they can also review how that content is being shared. They can do this periodically, and the most important part is that those workspace owners are at the source of this information, right? And they know whether Maya is still relevant in the context of this particular document and in the context of this particular team. To not just leave this in the abstract, I encourage you to actually try this for yourself. On our website, you can find the free 21-day trial and hopefully experience this for yourself. Maybe even chat potentially with us to see what other ways SysGetPoint can be useful to your organization. So with that, I would assume that we have a lot of interesting questions. So I will hand it over back to Vlad and Gokan. Gentlemen, I would assume we have some interesting ones today.
Thank you, Carlo, for the excellent presentation. So now it's time for the Q&A. Gokan, are you ready?
I am ready, my friends.
Okay, so I already gave you a bit of a preview about the hot topics in the questions. So first question I had was about the autofill columns. I'm not sure. I know it's public. We know about them. Can we show them yet, or is it something that?
It has been announced, such as the two apps at Ignite, but still nothing into my tenant, nothing I heard of. So I guess it's still in release mode.
The private preview, but there is a conference happening in a few weeks here in Orlando, a big Microsoft conference. So I wouldn't be surprised if we hear more about it then. And we might have to get you back here on a webinar to only talk about autofill columns in detail, because I feel it's such a cool feature that so many people can use easily.
Absolutely.
Next up, a question from Jacques Alexandre, which I used to work with a couple years ago. Does every user uploading a document in the library needs a SharePoint Premium license, or is there a licensing cheat sheet that you can provide?
So basically, it's pay as you go. So if you have access to the SharePoint site, you basically have access to the features. It's based on the consumption. So if you have a team with 5 people using SharePoint Premium capabilities, you'll be charged for those 5 people using SharePoint Premium. If you have a SharePoint site with 1,000 people, well, depending on what they do, well, you'll be charged as it's pay as you go. So, but the thing is, as it's like an Azure resource group, well, you can monitor the usage and you can set limits, hard limits and soft limits on the usage. So if you tell that your organization only allows you to spend €1,000 or $1,000 per month or per year, well, you can easily configure that and make sure that you don't override that limit. But there is no licensing, it's pay as you go, you pay for what you do. The only 2 things to remember is SharePoint Advanced Management. So the extra features in the admin center are $3 per user per month. Those need to have for everyone for those using, as well as the fee form and layout document processing models. They use also credits in AI Builder.
Okay, but for most users, it's a pay as you go, right? So if they have, if you want to give them access to the library, you're kind of responsible. If they upload 100 documents, you'll pay for 100 documents. But if they don't have access to the library, they cannot upload. But if they view, they can still profit from other people uploading it, but at no individual cost, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Okay, next question from Lauren. Gokan, can you cover the issue about having multiple models in one library, charging the processing cost for each model?
Yes. So it is true, that's a big problem. So if you apply multiple models to one document library, the more you use those models, the more it charges you. So Microsoft is aware, that's feedback that we have provided them. The program manager, Chris McNulty, back in time told us that this would be fixed, but I haven't heard anything back yet. But yes, that's a big problem because you will get charged more and more just because you have multiple models into that document library. It doesn't count that as one, unfortunately.
Awesome. Okay, one final question that I have here from Lorna as well. A big issue that we have is that Syntax can only use, or I still call it Syntax, SharePoint Premium can only use electronic files. Do you know of any integrations that we can connect to scanners or anything we can do for physical copies of paper?
I never heard this, to be honest. So I'm sad to say I don't know. Like that's the PG.
So Lauren, I owe you a beer. You managed to stump Gokan. So whenever we meet in person, a drink is on me. You managed to stump Gokan. Doesn't happen often, so it's perfect.
Like, no idea, to be honest.
Okay, Gokan, last question for you. Any place where people should go to learn more about SharePoint Premium? Any final words you would like to say?
Yes, so a lot of information is available on the internet, but there is one link that I really encourage everyone to go is aka.ms/syntax/start. Every information is available into that wonderful website to start learning about Microsoft SharePoint Premium.
Awesome. Gokan, thank you again for joining us on today's webinar. As mentioned for everyone, you will have the recording of a webinar sent to you in just a few days. So if you enjoyed it, please feel free to share it with your colleagues or others from the community that might be interested. And actually on May 8th, Gokan covered SharePoint Advanced Management a bit. We will do a deep dive about SAM on May 8th. Watch your emails. I'm sure you'll get an invite to that as well. And if you have any other questions about SysKit or any of the SysKit products, don't hesitate to reach out to sales@syskit.com. It was a pleasure having you all here, and see you next time.